To be honest, you guys, I don't even know if I can, get my thoughts coherent enough to be able to review this book properly. I have a lot of feelings about this book. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cheryl, and today I'm here to bring you my review of A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. This book. Oh my god, this book. Oh. If you have not picked up this book or this series yet, I highly, highly recommend it. Now, the first part of this review will be spoiler-free, and then the second part will have all of my spoiler-filled thoughts. So there's not really too much I can say about this book because it will spoil things, but overall, I know a lot of people had issues with the first book. Most of those issues got resolved in this book. I just like the character relationships in this book a lot more. They're a lot less problematic and abusive, and just overall, Feyre just became a strong, badass female character like we always knew she could be. And just, yes, a lot of the issues that the first book had got addressed or eliminated entirely. And so, yes, if you have not picked up this sequel, the hype is entirely worth it. I know a lot of people kind of were hesitant about this book just because the first one got such mixed reviews, but this book is just leagues and leagues above the other one. So yes, definitely pick this up if you have not already. I gave it a full 5 out of 5 stars. So let's get into all of my spoiler thoughts because I have a lot. Let's start with talking about the differences between A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury with the characters. Feyre was one of the most unlikable characters that I've read about in a long time in A Court of Thorns and Roses. She made very weird and just unrealistic decisions. She was just kind of a dumbass. She looked to the men around her to bring her up and to support her. All she wanted was someone to take care of her, which I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand she spent all of this time taking care of her family, but she had no drive, no initiative on her own. She needed the men in her life to guide her. And that was very problematic, and I know that pissed a lot of people off. In addition, the relationship between her and Tamlin was fairly abusive, and it was not really addressed in the first book. A lot of people just kind of brushed it off, but that is not an issue in the second book. Tamlin is just not a factor anymore. There's no, Team Rhysand versus Team Tamlin in this book. It's only Rhysand. Not only did Sarah J. Maas sink the ship between Feyre and Tamlin, she just decimated it. There is no possibility for Tamlin to be a love interest, which is something that I've noticed that Sarah J. Maas kind of does. Instead of just allowing the reader to kind of decide which one is the favorite, she just, destroys the other love interest as a character. And I'll talk a little more about that later and why and, how she destroyed him. But yes, there is no Tamlin in this book, which I'm okay with. It surprised me a little because I had seen kind of everyone was all Team Rhysand, I love Rhysand and Feyre so much. And I had only read the first book by this point, and I was kind of like, what's going on? How did everyone kind of jump gears? Or I wasn't a huge fan of Tamlin to begin with, but I also didn't just absolutely hate him. However, after reading this book, I now completely understand why everyone is like, go Rhysand, fuck Tamlin. I get it now. So kind of along those lines, the book starts off with Feyre living with Tamlin, and she's just spiraled into this deep depression. She has PTSD, which I really appreciate Sarah J. Maas putting in this book because the shit that she went through under the mountain is not something that someone can just walk away from scot-free without issue. So it was really nice to see Sarah J. Maas address this with the main character. You know, Feyre wakes up with nightmares every night. She vomits every night. She's getting skinnier and skinnier. She's just unhappy. She's not able to do the things that she used to love to do, like paint. And Tamlin just doesn't understand. He's so focused on his own issues that he just doesn't really care. And so he doesn't once come to check on her in the middle of the night when she's having a nightmare. Or even if they're sharing the same bed, he doesn't once wake up and is like, are you okay? How can I help you? Instead, she's made it very clear that what she wants is to not be contained because it reminds her of Under the Mountain. So, you know, she asks him, can I go do this? Can I go do that? And he does allow it at some points, except for she's always constantly watched. She constantly has a guard around her. And so she's getting progressively more and more frustrated at this. She's diving deeper and deeper into her depression, and it's just kind of a mess. And then enter the wedding. So she has the bargain with Rhysand, right? Where she has to go spend a week, a month with him at his court. And for the first 3 months, he did not appear at all. And she was just kind of hoping he had forgotten about it. You know, she made the bargain as a last minute plea for survival. And so she's just kind of like, okay, maybe he forgot about it. But her wedding night, or her wedding day appears. She's getting ready. She's in this frilly, pompous ass dress that she hates. And she's like, she's jittery, but not the kind of jittery that most people get before their wedding where they're like, oh, I can't believe it's my wedding day. I'm so excited. I'm so nervous. She's like, I want this day to be over with. I'm done. I just don't want to. I don't want to be here. And so she's walking down the aisle, and the one thing she requested for her wedding was no red. No red anything. Because red is a triggering color for her. It reminds her of the bloodshed that she experienced under the mountain. So what happens? That priest lady, whose name I can't remember, lined the aisle with red rose petals. And so it reminded Feyre of drops of blood, and so she just froze. She started panicking. And so she gets almost all the way down the aisle, and she stops. And then she starts backing up, and she says no, and she's like, I can't do this. And she panics and, like, cries out for help, but it's internally. So in her mind, she's basically like, I need a way out. Rhysand, because they're bonded through the tattoo or whatnot, can hear this and makes his grand appearance. And Rhysand does not do things subtly. He basically showed up and I was like, bitches, I'm here. And so then, you know, he whisks her away, and she's kind of like, why did you do this at first? But then she's also kind of like, thank you. And Rhysand knows, and Rhysand immediately is like, you're skinnier than I last saw you. He knows that she's having these nightmares. He can feel it, because they apparently can get glimpses of each other's lives when the emotions are strong, or at least he can with her, and so he's glimpsing it when she gets sick at night and has these nightmares. He also knows that Tamlin hasn't done shit about it, and so he's basically like, you know, you're not going to be a prisoner here. I want to help. And so that's kind of like the start of the book and the start of their budding friendship relationship thing. And so she goes back to Tamlin because, you know, her week is over, and he has immediately started using her as a spy. He's like, tell me everything you've seen, you know, and Rhysand knows this, and so Rhysand provides her with fake information and all that kind of stuff. And then Tamlin makes a mistake. Later in the book, he becomes increasingly more and more protective of her. He eventually, like, refuses to let her accompany him anywhere, and he makes the mistake of trapping her in the house. He puts up a big barrier that she cannot break, because he also knows that she has these immense powers, but refuses to train her, or refuses to let her train and increase these powers and master them, because he wants to be the one to protect her. He doesn't think she needs to protect herself. Which is a very big difference between Rhysand, which is kind of like, I'll help you, I'll protect you. Rhysand teaches her to read when she's there for the week. He teaches her to write, he helps her with her powers, but he basically is like, you're a strong, independent woman. You should be able to do these things. You should be able to take care of yourself. And Tamlin's basically like, nah man, I got this. You don't need to do anything. And Feyre's like, that once appealed to me, but not anymore. He makes the mistake of locking her in the house, and she basically has a panic attack because she feels like she's trapped, once again like she was under the mountain. And she had been slowly but surely working on her powers when she was with Rhysand, because she had visited him a couple times by this point, at least, and so she panics. She, like, inadvertently envelops herself in, like, just darkness, and all the maids and stuff are freaking out. They're like, what's going on? What do we do? So in comes the savior, Mor. Now, Mor is Rhysand's cousin. Rhysand can't go and save her himself because that would be breaking the law or some sort of treaty, and so then Tamlin would be able to declare war. But because it was Mor, she was able to walk in. Like, she couldn't willow in, so she had to, like, go to the edge of the lands and walk in and go save her herself. And so she did, and she basically, you know, gave a warning and was like, you should just be happy Rhysand wasn't able to do this, because craziness would have ensued. And so Feyre is whisked away, and she gets back and she thanks Rhysand, and she decides that she doesn't want to go back. And you know, that's pretty cool because she's basically like, I was trapped there, I wasn't happy there, I don't want to go back, and so she sends Tamlin a letter and is basically like, yeah, don't look for me, I'm not coming back. And Tamlin, of course, disregards it and is just jackass. So yeah, that's basically just kind of like how the book gets rolling, what happens, how she gets to the situation where she and Rhysand fall in love, and which is the best thing ever. And I knew, like a lot of people did, that they were going to be mates, but when it was like declared and she accepted the mating bond, I was like, yes, this is everything I wanted, because Rhysand is so much better than Tamlin. Tamlin wanted a nice little pretty housewife. Rhysand wanted her to be a queen, and let her be a queen. And not only that, let her be a high lady, which, High Lady of the Night Court, hell yes. Like, I am just so hyped for the next book to see where she's going with this, what she's gonna do, because as you know, this book kind of left off on a cliffhanger where, you know, all the crazy shenanigans happened with the King of Hybern, or King Hybern, or whatever his name is, and where the king broke the mating bond between Rhysand and Feyre, and she pretends that she had been tricked this whole time, and she goes back with Tamlin because she knew that was the only way to save everyone. But of course, the mating bond is a bond way deeper than that and cannot be broken, so instead the bargain is what had been broken between them, but they both pretended, and it was fantastic. And Tamlin's basically like, oh, I can't believe he did all these things to you, and she's like, I know, I was just a prisoner and all this sort of stuff. And Lucien's over there like, I don't believe her. Tamlin, why you believe in this shit? And Tamlin's like, she was prisoner. And she was like, oh yes, I was a prisoner. But of course she's not. She's now a spy. She is the High Lady of the Night Court, and she is just fantastic, and I am, so hyped. So kind of like what I was talking about before, where Sarah J. Maas just sunk Tamlin as a ship and as a character. So not only is Tamlin just abusive to Feyre in general, extremely controlling, like for example with the scene in the study where he loses his temper and like unleashes his fury. Well, he didn't know that Feyre could put up a shield around her. So he would have hurt her if she had not been able to. And so he has these awful outbursts, and then he does the very stereotypical, I'm so sorry, I love you very much, I'm so sorry, it'll never happen again, kind of abusive cycle thing. And so, yeah, so not only is he awful and abusive, but he is like responsible for the fact that Rhysand's family is dead, and he sold everyone out to the King of Hybern just to get her back, even though she had explained multiple times that she did not want to come back, that she was happy where she was at. He just did not accept it, he did not believe it, and so yes, like, don't get me wrong, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him being sunk as a character because I don't like him and I hate him, but Sarah J. Maas left no possibility of a Feyre Tamlin shipper. Like, she basically was like, this man is evil. You can't love him. It's just awful. So I think my favorite scene in the book was when Rhysand was recounting the events of the ACOTAR through his perspective, where the reason that Feyre would paint the starry night sky on her dresser when she was still a human and still living at home is because when Rhysand was trapped under the mountain, he would send her those images. So basically, he knew that she was his mate, or he knew that there was a bond between them before they had even met, and then when he found her, you know, in the arms of Tamlin, who was basically his mortal enemy, you know, just craziness ensued. But, oh, that chapter gave me a lot of emotions. I didn't cry while reading this book, but if any chapter was going to make me cry, it would have been that one. Just to hear him recount all of these awful, awful events, and just everything he did to protect her, even without really knowing who she was, and just, especially because Rhysand had been, like, kind of categorized as a bad guy in the first book, like, he was bad, he was mean, he was awful. You realize that's not the case, and everything he did to protect those he loves, and I'm here for that. So can we just talk about, like, how much of a squad goal the Court of Dreams is? Because I love every single one of those characters. All of them. I can't even tell you which one's my favorite, because they're all just fantastic in their own way. They're all unique. but they're all very strong characters, and I want more of them. I'm gonna assume they're gonna be a big part of the next book, but if they're not, I'm gonna be mad because I just love all of them so much. I think Amren's my favorite. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. I think she's my favorite because she basically can just like look at a man and make him think he's drowning, and then he dies. So that's pretty cool. She's like some basically immortal being that's just kind of like, I'm here for the ride. But yeah, this is one of the few books where I was legitimately interested in every single character. I wanted to know what they all thought of what was going on. I love the scene after Rhysand and Feyre establish the mating bond where they see Cassian again, and he basically flirts openly with Feyre even though he knows that the mating bond had just taken place and that the Rhysand was going to be on edge, just because he knew Rhysand was going to need an outlet for his anger, so they fought and beat each other up so that Rhysand would not hurt anyone else. Like, that is friendship right there. And it's just, these characters are just so fantastic, and as I said, they are my new squad goals. Like, they are the best. This book, it broke my heart because I read it so fast, and we won't get the next one for quite a while, that I wish I had savored it, but it's also a library book, so I can't really savor it because I do have to return it, but, oh. I now understand why everyone is like, this book is just so much better than the first one, and this book is just so fantastic, because it really is. So yes, I'm assuming you've read it if you watch this whole review, because if not, I've just spoiled you for everything, but yes, just 5 out of 5 stars. Faysand is like something I just wholeheartedly ship now. I am trash for this book. I'm trash. So yeah, that's my fairly disjointed review for A Court of Mist and Fury. I have a lot of feelings about this book. So yeah, let me know how you guys felt about this book down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!